Hello everyone and welcome to the Smashi Business Show. Today is Tuesday, September 9, 2025. I'm Abdul Majid Awan.
And I'm Richard Fitzgerald, and we've got a packed show for you today. That's words line.
Yeah, but today Rich is saying that, and we have very important news today. Spain PM Sanchez has imposed arms embargo on Israel to stop Gaza genocide. Mubadala seeks up to $920 million in due stake sale amid rising secondary offerings, and Wynn has set aside land for second UAE casino resort, which is very interesting.
And you know, the first brand I launched on the Augustus Media 10 years ago was Love in Dubai. Smashi Business came later, but the Love in Dubai Community Awards, our inaugural one, is taking place this Thursday at Ansarkal in Concrete. They're nearly here. We're going to celebrate the extraordinary achievements of individuals who have made a genuine impact on Dubai this year. We've had nearly 17,000, so 16,900 and something votes across the 10 categories, and the winners are going to be announced this Thursday. So if you do know us, do a ping. I think there's a few slots left. We've had about 350 RSVPs, and that's really at max. But we will have all the key people at the event on Thursday night. Looking forward to it.
How important is this, Rich? Because we always talk about it, we always do this readout, but you being the founder of Love in Dubai, how important are these awards? And can you tell us who are your favorites to win, apart from the awards?
You know, well, you know, just doing a celebration event as a media company and doing awards in a credible way. So it's a non-commercial event. It's, you know, the editorial team on the Love in Dubai show, which takes place in the studio before us every morning. They interviewed all these people throughout the year and over the years, right? So Casey and Massa and Farah and all the journalists, they know the stories inside out. The tagline for the 10-year celebration is "Send it to Love in Dubai," celebrating 10 years of your stories. And people really do send their stories of the city to us, and then the young journalists go through their processes to pick out the best stories to share, amplify with wider people. So that's the genesis of it. You know, the title awards, there's one called the Spirit Awards. You know, there's GOAT, which is the overachieving athlete in the city. People do challenges all the time, right? Some of that is like related to Smashi's driven dreamers, doers mentality, but in Dubai people do self-challenges all the time. There's also a young person's awards. There's many different awards. We've got, as you keep mentioning on this podcast, we've got a business category award as well, and then there's Talk of the Town restaurant. But I've been quite surprised that the people categories, the people-led communities and their people have had a lot more votes than the, say, business category or the restaurant category as well.
I think it's a lot common to have those kinds of awards, but community, I think Lovin is finally doing something which the community wants, achievements of people, individuals who are not superhuman and they don't have some superhuman abilities, but they're doing great things. So I think that's the spirit of it.
We never really wanted to make it about ourselves, and I think it's a fine line. So I think on Love in Dubai, we cover the community all the time. So to have a dedicated event makes sense, but definitely it's about the people and it's about the communities, and even some of our partners like Mohri Media Office, Dubai Tourism, Dubai Culture. You know, these entities and organisations will be represented. But it's nice to see whether it's inaugural, it is inaugural, but whether it continues beyond this year. It looks like it will, but whether it's our own Met Gala or whatever, we're definitely keeping the community element, and whether we launch it in our other cities, you know, obviously Lovin's in many cities across the region. The ones that are thriving or more resources are in Riyadh and Doha and Abu Dhabi and Cairo. They're quite big, and they could easily have these community awards as well.
Done. Next up, first story of the day is very important. It's also the Arab community and now the European community kind of joining the walk against Israel as they're carrying out genocide in Gaza. So Spain has imposed sweeping measures against Israel, including a full arms embargo, with Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez saying the move is aimed at stopping the genocide in Gaza and supporting Palestinians. In a televised speech, Sanchez drew a sharp line between self-defense and the targeting of civilians. He said, quote, "There is a difference between defending your country and bombing hospitals or starving innocent children."
The package unveiled through a royal decree formalizes a ban on weapons sales to Israel that has been in place since October 2023. It also prohibits ships carrying fuel for the Israel army from docking at Spanish ports and denies airspace access to aircraft transporting defense equipment. Individuals accused of genocide, human rights violations, and war crimes, including Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, could also be barred entry.
And Spain's measures go further, banning imports from Israeli settlements in the occupied West Bank. Madrid also pledged 10 million euros in new funding for UNRWA, which is doing a great work in Gaza, but they've been banned by Israel also. And a total of 150 million euros in humanitarian aid for Gaza by 2026.
Israel's Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar condemned the decision as anti-Semitic, accusing Spain of hostility towards Israel. Madrid rejected the charge, recalling its ambassador from Tel Aviv and stressing that its actions reflect international law, human rights, and the majority of the Spanish society.
And I think, Rich, we have discussed this a lot, the genocide, but considering the whole embargo situation, do you think they'll get affected? And the whole European situation overall, everyone is now against them, nearly all the big countries. France has said they're going to accept Palestine as a state. Netherlands has done, and New Zealand, Australia, and now Spain has been a vocal critic of Israel.
Yeah, I think, beyond, my knowledge and beyond this, the Smashi business is the geopolitical situation. And, we've documented at length editorially where we stand on it, I guess. But from a sanctions point of view, an embargo, it is going that direction. And, I think we saw the UAE come out and say the annexation is a red line. And you documented on the show the billions of trade between the two nations. And actually, it seems inevitable that sanctions is going to continue. And, whether the day after and whatever happens with West Bank, a world of decades to come sanctions against a nation in the region seems to be what will happen. And unless diplomacy prevails and unless dialogue prevails, but every time something comes up, what seems to happen is statements are made, and instead of reconciliation, like the UAE did, in the Spanish situation here, a wedge is divided and it's further apart. Like, if you're recalling people from missions abroad, that's years of that takes years to repair. We've seen it in many examples around the world that dialogue is the start of free trade, and missions, while they are diplomacy, as you often say in the show, Majid, that politics and business are related, and that economics is interrelated. Fiscal policies and policies related to currencies and central banks are interlinked with politics in a way. So we often see this with the Fed in the US as well. So I think the free trade in the region is important. The UAE have obviously recognized that, and there's lots of measures made around free trade, and sanctions will harm any country that drives away. Sanctions will harm the economics of a country if they continue to go down that route. Whether there's two states or not, that sanctions is not sensible, and obviously political dialogue is the first point of call. And if you deal conflict with conflict, if you're always on the attack, then how are you going to? We've already seen, the reporter from the Bloomberg in the region this year showed that the Israeli economy is at 0% growth this year. That's almost unprecedented, where no other country in the region really is in recession, and globally there's no recession. That 0% growth is at the cusp of recession, and we've seen in Eastern Europe and other parts it took decades for the Baltic countries to reinvigorate their economies, when Central Europe and Eastern Europe, where I'm from, Western Europe, where I'm from, was growing with Celtic Tiger booms in the 90s. You had the Baltic countries at war, and it took years and years. And anyone who's been to any of those countries, I know you were in Georgia recently, but I'm really talking about the old Yugoslavia countries, like Serbia, Montenegro, Albania, Croatia, and all these countries that had war in the 90s. It took years to get peace, and it took years for growth. Now, that was even without sanctions. So I think I think I said on the show before, and even Trump said in a speech in the U.S. in Riyadh, and I think it was mentioned on this show yesterday, or actually it was mentioned on an interview with Rula Talab, the editor of the Lebanese-born editor of Financial Times. She did an interview on Mixed Signals podcast in Semaphore recently. It's a current episode, and she was asked a quote that she made in 2016 that said that the leaders in the region are their own, they're the ones responsible for. But it was in the context of the time, and I think she was saying then that we shouldn't blame others, we should take accountability, and she kind of said that she grew up in a time that no one took responsibility, say in Lebanon. Everyone waited for the US to decide their future. Yeah. And now what we've seen, and Trump alluded to this, is that the modern Gulf states and the Gulf leaders are taking responsibility. Yeah. They're making their own regulation, they're building their own future. And I think that's the way forward. I think every other nation in the region that sees that and that follows the Gulf lead will reap the rewards from that.
Yeah, and indeed it's a Gulf Renaissance. It's kind of an Arab Renaissance. That is one of the words that Trump used. Actually, he was reading, it was a very funny speech where he was reading 2 lines and then he went on for 2 minutes impromptu and then he came back to the prompter. I think that guy on the teleprompter was having a bad day.
Much like you do, Bajir, yeah.
Yeah. But to be honest, I think sanctions are good in this case just to bring Israel back on defense. I know they've throughout the war, since October 7th, they've been like, oh, we're at the forefront of war, it's an offense against anyone who is threatening our safety. But political theory throughout the history, everyone has said the defense is the best offense. So I don't know what they're following.
And did you see that the US Ministry of Defense changed their name to Ministry of War?
Yeah.
So it's so interesting.
With Trump, you can expect anything. That's what I have realized. Yeah. But yeah, talking about another renaissance, I don't know what is happening. I think Rich will have a better insight on it. But Abu Dhabi's Mubadala investment company, first the news, has secured demand for all shares in a major secondary sale of its stake in telecom operator Du. The deal, according to terms seen by Bloomberg, could raise as much as $920 million, nearly $1 billion. Mubadala is offering 342 million shares or a 7.55% stake in Du at a price range between 9 and 9.90 dirhams per share.
So this is at the higher range, which matches Du's latest closing price. The sale could bring in 3.39 billion dirhams. The announcement triggered a 3% dip in Du stock, although shares remain at 28% higher so far this year. Mubadala currently holds about 10% of Du through its Mamura Diversified Global Holding Unit.
And the company said the sale will significantly increase Du's free float, diversify its investor base, and improve liquidity. Institutional and retail book building closes September 12 in just a few days, with the final price set for September 15. Goldman Sachs, Abu Dhabi Commercial Bank, Emirates NBD, and the First Abu Dhabi Bank are leading the transaction.
So this move highlights a growing trend in the Middle East where secondary share sales are outpacing IPOs this year. In the UAE alone, nearly $3.8 billion has been raised through follow-on offerings in 2024, while Saudi Arabia has seen $13 billion from such deals.
Why not IPOs? I think I know the answer, but I would want your opinion on it. Why secondary share sales?
Well,
is it
I wish sorry?
Is it more lucrative? Because I think they're making more money from it.
Yeah, well, I think when we've seen what we would call semi-state entities like utilities go public, we've seen tranches be sold in IPOs, whether it's the retail tranche or the institutional, but usually it ranges between 5, 10, 15, 20% of the company is sold. Yeah. So what we're seeing here is that they've liked this, and then and in this case, an entity owns 10%, and then they're doing. So it kind of is an IPO. Yeah. It kind of is just an extra 10% is being offered out, but it's by Mubadala. But basically, it's a kind of a secondary that Du are offering more shares into the market. It looking at the bit that we just read out there, it looks like a timely thing. Yeah. Capital, free money is hard to come by in the era of high interest rates. We've done reports that the sovereign debt, the sukuks are very high in the region lately, and Saudi has offered a lot of bonds out in government bonds. So whether Abu Dhabi looked at ways within their different sovereign wealth funds of raising funds. There's very, very smart people here at the sovereign wealth funds, especially Mubadala. We've covered it at length, and they'll have done their models and done their math, and they'll have went, okay, we're up 23% this year. We have 10% here, and at their level it makes sense, and at the do level it makes sense. The telco space is, even though there's a duopoly in the UAE, it still is quite competitive. There's lots of evolution. We see E&, evolve their business model. They do a lot of other investments. They're in technology. Whenever you go to GITEX or any of these events, it's just fascinating how exciting the pavilions are around these telcos, right? They're definitely not the sort of boring old telcos. They've got flying taxis, they've got robots, they have AI investments. E&, have diversified portfolio across the board, and I think maybe do need more cash to invest further into areas of importance for them, whether it's media offerings, whether it's other types of diversified revenue. And in the news this week even is the sort of the troubles that the internet cables are having. That's mainly on the Etisalat side, but the underwater cables, and then you mentioned on the show as well that satellites are expensive, and people talk a lot about what Elon Musk is doing with Starlink. So the future is in telco business models requires still a lot of capex. So whatever you're doing in that space, you do need capital, and maybe this is one way of them getting it.
Yeah, and I think with Mubadala, I randomly went into their health portfolio. Even in health, they have like 52 startups plus established companies where they've invested. And I think whenever we talk about the sovereign wealth funds, we always say ADI is the most richest one with 1.2 trillion assets under management. And then Mubadala is at 330, 350. They always float that number around. But I think with Mubadala, they invest more. Even last year, they were the most, they're more active. So I think this money is most probably going into another, as soon as this is done by September 15, we'll see Mubadala investing into someone else. Khaldun al-Mubarak, the last speech that I saw of him, he was in US at an institute, from where he actually took the head of AI and they put it at MBZ UAI, the University of AI in Abu Dhabi. That thing, he said there that we are looking at US for more investments, because I think the startup space there is still one of the best startup space.
And the interesting thing, people often say about the capital markets in the region that they're not liquid enough. But also, when people report between the lines of these IPOs, they often talk of cross nation and cross emirate investments. So, this is Dubai Telecom listed on DFM, right? Yeah. And this is Mubadala, which is linked to ADX and Abu Dhabi. So, maybe there's something between the lines there in terms of why is this a secondary? Could a sovereign wealth fund in Dubai have taken the 10%, as a private deal? On these shares, or is this sort of going to be open to institutional, or are they going to announce this because it's listed, and is someone going to come in behind the scenes? Is the deal already done, is what I'm saying? Is this price already fixed, and is this just swapping one sovereign wealth fund to another of a public list in Dubai? Who knows?
Who knows? But IPOs, to be honest, in the recent past, in this first half of the year, Rich also follows the Saudi market. A lot of IPOs that went on Saudi market, they've flatted out. Flynas was one of the biggest ones that I was thinking maybe will grow. But MHG, the last one I saw, flatted out, went underpriced as soon as it was listed, the day it got the bell, obviously. But IPOs have been not doing that great this year. Last year, at the end, we saw Talabat, we saw Lulu, did so great, went 30% up. But then, I don't know, this year has been very bad for IPOs, if specifically on the Saudi market. I don't know when DFM will do its first IPO, but Saudi market has been very bad for IPOs.
Yeah, have they dropped? I think the Saudi market in general is having a toughish year, with NBC stock is way down, Aramco stock is way down. I think that Tawadul is having a toughish year over there at the moment. In terms of IPOs, the US has had a bit of a bounce back this year. you know, whether they're correlated, whether there's good years or bad years for IPOs, or whether to go out. But in general, you know, in general, a lot of the UAE stocks are up. A lot of the
DFM
IPOs,
is up.
DFM is up, and a lot of the stocks that went public in the last 2 or 3 years, a lot of them are up a lot. Nearly all of them. If you look at it, some of them are up significantly, like Salik and Diwa and others. And in Saudi, not so much. You have a few outliers. You have a few successful ones. There's a lot of talk of IPOs in the offing, which we cover a lot. In Saudi, like we covered Ninja. And now, obviously, the latest report over the weekend that Noon will go out. And if Noon is 50-50, you know, the FT reporting didn't say which exchange it will go on. You probably think it might go on to Dawal if Taliban went out.
Maybe a dual
DFM.
listing also. Why not?
Could be. I don't think we've seen a Tadawul DFM dual listing for a tech IPO as yet, but we'll see.
I think last year Lulu tried, but then they came out and they were like, Tadawul has more paperwork, so we're only listing on ADX. They said we'll plan to list on Tadawul by H1 2025. They haven't. I think they saw what's happening, so they're like, let's let the trend go up, and then maybe we'll do. So most probably this year, Lulu will also be on Tadawul in Saudi Arabia. But yeah, moving on, another interesting story, another billion-dollar story from one of the Emirates that we don't discuss a lot. But this place, Wynn Resorts, is the reason we discuss Ras Al Khaimah now so much more. Wynn Resorts and its partners have set aside a land for second integrated resort in Ras Al Khaimah, according to shareholders' agreement made public by the US Securities and Exchange Commission. AGBI saw it, they reported on it. So the first Wynn property on Al Marjan Island, which will house the Gulf's first legal casino, is currently under construction and expected to open in 2027.
Yeah, so the second integrated resort plot covers nearly 1.5 million square feet, combining existing and reclaimed land. The agreement confirms that if a casino is built there, Wynn or an affiliate will operate it exclusively. Wynn's Chief Communications Officer Michael Weaver said that no decisions will be made on the second site until after the first resort opens.
But the agreement also outlines additional plots, including the Janu plot and a luxury hotel and apartment site, and includes provisions for a potential public listing and sets a 10-year non-compete in the GCC, restricting Wynn from opening other branded properties in the region without shareholder approval.
Yeah, so Wynn has ambitious plans in the UAE with trademarks like Marjan Strip and Encore Marjan Island, hinting at the Las Vegas-style resort complex. The UAE gaming market is projected to be worth between $3 and $5 billion, with some estimates suggesting revenues could reach as high as $8.5 billion.
How big is this going to be when it opens? How big? This is going to be like, I think the opening is going to be a story of a lifetime. It's going to be a story for the decades.
Yeah.
And it's opening in 2026, mid-ish. April was the word that came out of the CEO's mouth when he was doing, what's it called, a call with the investors. But I don't know, how big is it going to be?
It's going to be big.
Yeah.
You know, Wynn in Vegas is so storied.
Yeah.
It's so incredible. I actually imagine I never had been to Vegas until last year.
Oh.
I never went on one of these gambling things or one of these stag things.
Not even
fights.
a slot machine?
No, I never went. And I went to CES last year, and I went to all these hotels.
Nice.
There was a conference. I actually didn't even try one of the slot machines. You know, as a Muslim, I don't gamble on it. But like, I walked the floors and I went to all the conferences. But all these hotels are storied, and the Wynn Hotel in Vegas is one of the better ones. It's one of the ones that's got a little bit of aura to it. It's refurbed. It's nice. I remember they had a kind of a viewing area for the football, for the NFL as well. And it was fascinating. There was a college game on. I couldn't believe how many people were watching. And like the sort of spin-off little venues that they have within the hotels. It's like Dubai in a way, right? Like the hotels will have 5, 6, 7, 8 F&B concepts, outlets. Each hotel has its own story in terms of investment and capital. I read recently Trump's Art of a Deal book, the one from the 80s, and there's a whole section on it. He had a whole era of buying and selling a hotel in Vegas, and the licenses that go into it. So the money and the capital behind what's happening in Vegas is decades of experience in terms of real estate. Like UAE is obviously ahead of the game in many ways in real estate and projects. We just saw a fascinating launch in Istanbul for Benghazi. It's new. What's it called? Skyblade?
Yeah, something.
So they're just incredible what they do. So, the world's eyes is on what's happening in real estate in Dubai. But when you combine real estate with gambling, with gaming, and with entertainment, the Vegas is on another level. And the fact that that expertise and IP is being supplanted into Ras Al Khaimah on what is a beautiful area. Like, I know you've stayed in Al Marjan. I've done a lot of triathlons and races around Al Marjan Island.
Yeah.
Very nice. Like, it's very cool. Like, and when you run around there, in the last few years, you see the fixed hotels that are already there, and then you see the hoardings. Like, there's a lot of Dubai investments there.
Yeah.
There's address opening. There's rumored to be recently passed Giorgio Armani, Allah Yarhamu, his hotel chain is opening there. I don't know if that's announced or if that's off the record or if that's speculation, but there are brands and IPs like that as part of this. So yeah, you're right. Like we've seen grand launches before. We saw when we saw J-Lo open the one and only. We saw Beyonce opened the Atlantis Royale and Dubai stopped for a few days. Per se. I remember all the posts of Love in Dubai and people were saying, "Are you loving Beyonce?" There was so much stuff and so much extravaganza. And as long as it's regulated well, and we should say, I for one kind of hope that it's sort of confined because I don't want gambling or gaming to take over every element of entertainment in the region. I think it's infiltrated into sports and football far too much in other countries, and it causes additional problems. It sort of adds to addiction habits of young individuals and things like that. So provided it's kind of, and I think the UAE have precedent and record of regulation and doing things moderately and doing things that still respect the culture. And they've done that quite well with alcohol.
And I think that's the biggest example that there is alcohol in UAE, in Dubai, especially in Abu Dhabi, it's there. Ras Al Khaimah also. I think Sharjah is the only dry state, but it's regulated so well that you can't buy it without getting a license, which is free. You can just takes 2 minutes to make a license, then you can go buy it. You're not allowed to drink in public. They have regulations and they're followed. Everyone, I think it's, we were talking, you must have listened to the show, that fear of law is very important. Respect for law is very important, but fear of law is also important. And in UAE, you have that kind of an environment where, if you break a rule, someone is watching. And that should be there. And with this gaming authority, they've made a whole gaming regulatory authority. They have they're calling it commercial gaming, not gambling. They're using words like that. So I think it will be very highly regulated. And it's going to set precedent also for other openings. Because there's a lot of talk. I think MGM Resorts, they're building a whole place in Dubai. And their CEO, last year we reported around September, where he said that I am trying. So maybe Dubai will have a casino in that MGM whole thing. But again, regulations are very important and they will have to follow each and every rule by the book.
Yeah, and look, as I said, you can enjoy these resorts without gambling. A lot of the focus will be on regulation and respect to Islam and respect to the country, but really you can enjoy it. One can go to Vegas and have a good time without doing anything illegal or without doing anything that's anti-Islam or anything like that. The fact that it coexists is up to regulators to manage, but I think it's an addition to tourism, and I see that the Ras Al Khaimah have introduced a new head of tourism to take it to the kind of next level, built on the great work by Rocky Phillips and his team have done over the years. And Ras Al Khaimah is an incredible addition to the tourism offering of the UAE. Especially now that we're entering into better climates, so for want of a better word, but cooler climates, the offering that's there is amazing, and the resorts are only going to get even better.
I think it's going to be a good distribution of tourists also, because everyone comes to Dubai.
Yeah.
And then some go to Abu Dhabi for the whole Yas Island experience of WB and all those resorts. But Ras Al Khaimah, I think it's very famous for being a weekend destination. Everyone goes for the long weekend, stays in those villas and all those places, and then they come back. But I think longer stays will now be a part of Ras Al Khaimah's tourism as well. That's a wrap for today. Thank you for tuning into the Smashi Business Show. Make sure to follow us across all social media channels at Smashi Business, and stay ahead with our daily newsletter. You'll find the subscription link in the description.
This has been a Smashi Business Show, a Smashi Business production, part of the Augustus Media Podcast Network. Big shout out to our 2.3 million monthly listeners across all platforms. You've made this possible. If you're one of them, we appreciate you. Please like, follow, and subscribe.
Yeah.
Thank you, and inshallah, Ward will be back with magic tomorrow.
Take care. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Nice and efficient 30 minutes. Well done.